back for the second segment of the July 1st Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, Eric Donovan.
3 more races to bring you. Let's pick up the action where we left off on June 26th, Friday. This is race number 4, Maiden Claimer on the grass, $25,000 tags here. The 10, Little Bernie, a horse we're very interested in this time and I think next time as well.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a race it's important to remember. Little Bernie has those blue silks and broke a little bit slowly there. You know, nothing major, but did break a little bit slowly. And it's important to remember the winner of this race, New Yorker, ends up wiring the field near. And New Yorker's the 2 horse, obviously not in front right now, but very quickly will get to the front end. So you have a race 1 on the front end. Now, we're not saying that Little Bernie was going to win this race, but Little Bernie had pretty mediocre form coming into this race, and I think a couple of things happened in here, and he really ran an improved effort off a little bit of a layoff for trainer, or is it second race off a layoff? But it was, yeah, second race off a layoff, but it was a really improved effort for trainer John Hurtler.
Yeah, I think so too, and you know, looking forward to Little Bernie's next start. This was a $25,000 maiden claiming race, but make no let me see if I can speak. Make no mistake about it, I thought this was one of the better 25 claimers we've seen around here on the turf.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think the winners are very high-end for this level, and it's one of the reasons the first winner and even the second horse. And the third horse, Itch, not a terrible horse either. This was a tough competitive group, and you've got Little Bernie moving up here on the inside and getting into position, but once again, as we've shown in a lot of races, it's that inside position that gets him in trouble.
Yeah, we'll pause it right here just to ID, and there's Little Bernie sitting back in, I guess, about 6th position here. You know, in a pretty decent little spot here as long as things can work out in front. But that doesn't really happen. Little Bernie tries to come up the rail here. There's a few other horses inside, and then there's a couple of other horses to Little Bernie's outside, keeping him pinned down in there. And right here you see jockey Sebastian Morales really has nowhere to go in this spot, has to steady a little bit, and here it's just going to get even more dicey.
Right, now he is saving ground, but on the other hand, you see him here. He tries to get outside. He can't really get outside. He ends up going back towards the inside. He's shut off in there. This horse has absolutely nowhere to go. And look, we're not saying that he's ran a tremendous race by any stretch, but you know what? This was a big improvement for him. He wants to go inside there. The horse is chicking out, but there's really no room for him. And he was still running a bit at the end. He was 35-1 in this race with mediocre form. And we're just looking for a horse that's a big price that really outran his odds and had a little bit of trouble. And Little Bernie fits in that category. And he's the kind of horse in this kind of field next time out, he could do well.
I agree. I think he's got a lot of upside. I don't know that too many 25,000 maiden claimers are going to come up as tough as this one either.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Anyway, we'll go to the 8th race, which ended up being the last race on Friday because, of course, we had that storm, and we're still on the turf. And this may have been about as talked about a race as we ran Save Rachel Alexandra last week.
Now, it looks like a good little race for 3-year-old fillies, a perfect sting overnight stakes. So we're going to look at the 2, Dame Ellen, also the 6, Strike the Bell. I think some nice up-and-comers in this race here, and they're really going to dissect these 2 horses. They're different trips in here. Strike the Bell, of course, in the middle of the pack there in the blue, and Dame Ellen down toward the inside here as they break away from the gate, going a mile and a 16th. We'll see. You know, Dame Ellen right up there near the leaders early on, drops back, and then you also see the 6 horse Strike the Bell kind of settle right next to Dame Ellen there as they make their way onto the backstretch.
Right, and they both get themselves into good position early in the race. And it's another one. The favorite in this race is in the Live Oak Silks, moving up on the outside in 4th, and that was Dinah Slew, and she had a nightmare trip, breaking from post 10, a mile and a 16th. Inner turf race is so tricky. Dinah Slew is a lot better in her race here, but you see right now the eventual winner, Dame Ellen, is moving up and getting herself into a very cozy spot inside of horses. Strike the Bell is now drifted about three lengths or so behind her, but ultimately, Strike the Bell makes what I think is a real premature wide move in this race, but of course, while that's happening, Dame Ellen is getting into the very obvious trouble on the inside that we'll see in the stretch. And I think the question you have to ask yourself about this race is, what do you glean from one horse making a slightly premature wide move versus another horse saving all the ground, where the horse that saved the ground got into a ton of trouble?
Yeah, well, we'll have to take a look at it when the trouble actually does happen. You see Strike the Bell's going to start to make that move on the outside right about now as Strike the Bell comes up there with about 3/8 to go. In the back of the pack, the 6 horse and the 2 horse is the one we got highlighted now, and the 2 horse is Dame Ellen. The 6 horse is Strike the Bell toward the back here, and we'll see what Andy's saying. Strike the Bell makes the big wide move here, and Dame Ellen sits on the rail and gets stuck in a little bit of traffic.
Right. I mean, right now, Dame Ellen, remember, she's been getting a very, very nice trip. Now, you see the rider steadying there, no doubt about it. He tries to go through on the inside. Well, very obviously, as you're seeing here, that hole gets completely shut off. Now, while this happens, of course, Strike the Bell establishes, I don't know, as much as a 3-length lead. And you go back to the first races we showed in this episode where the horse almost overcame a situation of falling behind the other one and made the move. But in that case, I think the winner was making the move at an appropriately timed race. Maybe I'm splitting hairs a little. It feels like if you had it to do over again, and that's all we're saying, maybe Strike the Bell moved a step too soon. But, of course, Dame Ellen looks so visually impressive overcoming that trouble and coming out. And don't get it wrong, she's a very nice horse, and these horses are going to stake race at Saratoga. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I just think that Dame Ellen's trouble is somewhat mitigated by the fact that she saved so much ground.
She did save ground, but you know what? She's a game horse, and she knows exactly what she has to do, because this is almost like a carbon copy of her allowance race before this, when she also had trouble, overcame that, and ran well enough to win. So I think Dame Ellen's a horse with certainly a lot of talent. I think I'm going to disagree with you here. I'd rather have the clear, wide sweeping trip than having that trouble-laden trip down inside.
You know, I'm not. You know, I'm a little on the fence with this myself. I'm not saying that I think. I just think it's closer than people think. When they look at this race, they say, "Oh, Dame Ellen was 100th the best." I'm not sure that's the case. I think these horses are of much closer ability than the trouble makes a lot of people think.
All right, you might be right about that. We'll have to see what happens down the road. Certainly, they'll be meeting again. The last race we'll do here on the segment, the Maiden Specialweight, June 27th. Race number 2. We're going to look at the 3 French Onion Soup, who breaks a little tardily and then rushes up down inside.
Yeah, and it's another case, and you can see right there, of course, breaking, as you said, about a length low, but this is another case of, this is a weird one, because this horse is another one that gets jammed down on the inside, but I don't really feel like jammed down is the right word, even though that happens in the stretch, because there was plenty of room for him not to be stuck down on the fence, and it just felt like ultimately French Onion Soup got kind of a passive ride.
Passive ride, I think late in the race. Up here, I can't really say that the ride's too passive, because it does break slow, and then the jock does do a decent job to get in position. You can almost argue that he tries to gain too much position here by getting too close to the pace here, or maybe he should have been sitting a couple lengths back and just been happy with that. But coming around the turn, you see obviously where French Onion Soup is down inside, and you've seen these races before. You're going to know what happens here. French Onion Soup's going to get in some traffic and not going to be able to get through here. But we'll take a look at it even more in depth here. Just kind of an odd race for French Onion Soup. Don't know where you go from here off this.
Right, and of course the second place finisher is the one behind, who was sitting in a spot that French Onion Soup could have been in. And French Onion Soup right now, I mean, watch him on the rail, and it's like, okay, so the plan from here is exactly what? And you have to assume that people have a plan on the race, and ultimately French Onion Soup, you'll see it here in the pan. There's a little bit of room, but horses aren't squeezing through that spot in the inside. And now you see him getting steadied in there. He doesn't really, and now it looks like he's being completely steadied out of the race, and I'm not even 100% sure why. And of course, the entire race developed in front of him. He wasn't winning the race. Probably wasn't finishing second in here, but I'll tell you something. There's over 6 lengths between the second finisher and French Onion Soup at the finish, because he finishes third. That gap should have been a lot smaller.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to the fact that when you see that gap inside, no matter how small it is, you just got to take the initiative there and go through. You can't just wait around for it to get bigger, because chances are it's not going to get bigger. It's just going to go away, and you're going to be trapped in there and have to steady.
Right, or don't put yourself in that position if you're not going to go inside. And I don't love horses trying to go through inside. Get a little off the rail. There was plenty of room to go somewhere. This is Belmont Park. I don't see it getting the 6 path. But anyway, I think that horse, French Onion Soup, maybe gets another chance to Maiden Specialweight. Maybe needs a little drop. The winner of this race, Burley's Gold, though, is a very, very promising horse for Rick Dutrow. French Onion Soup gets a big chance from me next time. That does it for Trips and Traps. We once again enjoy your watching. Appreciate your watching. Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com. Keep the emails coming. We'll see you next week.